Hello, everybody. Good morning and welcome to Impact Nation episode 6. I don't know about you guys, but I am super, super excited to be here today. I just feel like it's been so long since we've had an episode. I know summer is here, everybody's been busy, and I'm just excited to reconnect with you all. Listen, we have an amazing topic today. We're going to be talking about the great belonging. But before we get started, I just want to go around and ask everybody how they're doing. Let's start with you, Nathan. How are you doing? How have you been? What's going on in your life?
Yeah, doing good. The July month always brings a trip for me and my family up to Canada. So we live down in Tampa, but all my Canadian family's up here in Ontario. And so each July we come up here and escape some of the Florida heat, but also get a lot of family time. And we try to squeeze in some theme parks along the way. So we actually got to visit Kings Island on our road trip up here. And also last week we spent a day at Canada's Wonderland just north of Toronto. So taking in the sights and sounds and the thrills.
Nice. That's amazing. I'm so glad you got to visit some parks. And speaking of Mr. Matt Heller, how have you been? I know you just are getting back from a park tour of your own. How are you? How have you been? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am finding that my age might be catching up to me just a little bit. The number of rides that we're doing is decreasing just a little, but we're still having a great time. We did 8 parks in 8 days. Kings Island was one of them. I got to give a shout out to the team at Kings Island. Nathan, I don't know if you noticed this, but the team was just outstanding operationally. They were also very consistent about wishing people a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day at Kings Island. And we noticed that from everybody. So talk about an impact. They made a big impact on all of us with their hospitality.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I am also very happy to hear that because sometimes in our industry, especially in July when it's hot outside, it's very hard to keep that consistent energy and keeping everybody involved. So that's amazing to hear. So shout out to the Kings Island team. If you're somewhere watching this, again, I've been doing well. July has been a very busy month with me for travel. I also celebrated my 39th birthday last week on last Friday. So it's been an amazing month. It's been a great year. I'm super excited about the second half of the year. Even with Impact Nation, towards the end of the episode, we'll let you know about some exciting things we have going on. But I just wanted to welcome you guys to this episode. So again, I kind of teased at the beginning. Today we're going to be talking about the great belonging. So I want you, before we get into our introspection part, I want you to just take like 10 seconds and think about what does it mean to belong to something? What does it mean to belong to someone? When you hear the phrase the great belonging, what kind of comes to your mind? All right. So I want you to kind of think about that just for a little bit. And then we're going to have Nathan jump right into our introspection part. But I just want you to think about that really quick. When you hear the great belonging, what comes to your mind?
Dramatic pause. Well, before we start with introspection, let's start with intros of our guests today, too. And so we have Joel, Tony, and Zach. Thanks so much for joining us. Joel, let's start off with you. How have you been? How are you? If we haven't met before, I know Joel, you and I have met, but I don't know if you know Zach already or Tony already. I think you and Tony have been on previous episodes together. So give a little intro to yourself as well.
Yeah, sure. So I have been in the space for about 25 years. I started off as a haunter, moved to a haunt actor, to a special effects makeup artist, to a pyrotechnician, to a manager. And my day job actually has me working with the attractions industry as a business advisor. And hello, Zach and Tony. Tony, you are a familiar face. And Frank, Matt, Nathan, thank you for allowing me back on, even though I was late. My apologies, but it's always a good time.
All good.
Awesome. Zach, how about you?
Hey, nice to meet everybody. I think I'm only familiar with Matt. So hello, everyone. I'm Zach. I'm the GM for facilities at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Denver. So we're known as the #1 concert venue in the world. Before this, I had 6 years of management experience at the Disney parks, specifically Animal Kingdom. And then before that, I did a ton of internships during college in like Busch Gardens, Cedar Point, Columbus Zoo, all that good stuff. So been around the industry for a while now, and happy to be here.
Great to have you. Tony, how about you?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Tony. I am the GM for Old Tucson. It's an amusement park in Arizona. And been in the industry for 34 years this year. So much like a lot of people, I started when I was young and kind of progressed my way up in a lot of different things. So nice to meet you guys, Zach. And I know I've seen you before, Joel. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Hey, can I jump in just for a second? Sorry.
Yeah, Joel, go ahead.
Before I forget, Zach, Red Rocks has been on my bucket list forever, so I'm happy to put a name behind the place, if you will. So it looks like a spectacular venue, and I keep saying, I actually said in the last month, like, I've got to be there. So
Yeah, y'all can come out. I'll give a tour. No worries.
looking forward to it.
I might take you up on that sooner or later. The first week of August, I'll actually be in Denver for a conference that I'm participating in. So that would be cool. I have some friends. I run a couple of CEO groups that are meeting that week. And one of the CEOs, he's going in early to catch a concert there. I think he's going in on Saturday night, which is, what's that, August 1st or something like that, the Saturday night there. But anyway, I've watched many videos of concerts at Red Rocks.
Yes.
I haven't been there for a show. I've physically walked around there to take a look at it, but yeah, super cool venue. And you're right, when you say it's the #1 venue, I cannot argue with that. It's beautiful, really cool. So when we jump right into the topic at hand today, this idea of the great belonging, we're talking a lot about creating a culture where everybody who joins the team can understand what the goal is, what their role is, and also how they can excel. And a lot of it has to do with the leadership taking ownership over establishing that culture so that you communicate very clearly to let everybody know what direction you're going in, so that you communicate very clearly where people fit into the organization and what their power is to make a difference. And then it's up to the leadership too to equip those people to be able to shine in their roles. And the introspection part of this, looking inwardly, this all started when Matt and Frank and I were talking about what do we want to do together at this coming IAAPA in November? What's the session that we want to lead? And I had said, I've been thinking about this topic of the great belonging, and it stems a bit from my background. As a kid, I went through a number of years where I was bullied and just felt like I didn't belong. Even though I was a student at that school and I was part of the class, I was made to feel like I wasn't a part of it. And then going into the workforce, I could still see some of those patterns of people who just decide they don't like somebody or they don't prefer somebody, and then holding them to the outside. And what we have to recognize is that as leaders, this can sometimes be done unintentionally, where we hold people at a distance just because we don't really click with their personality. Kind of a silly story, but I remember as a teenager, opened up in Welland, Ontario, was a Taco Bell. And I was so pumped because we didn't have Taco Bells up until that time. And I know it's a small town, so we're excited when anything new comes to town. But a unique thing about Taco Bells in Canada is they also had fries. and they were delicious. And every now and then, in the States now, they introduce for a limited time only the Mexi fries or whatever. But anyway, as a teenager, I wanted to get a job at Taco Bell. So I applied, and then they did this weird thing of a group interview. So they had probably 15 of us who had applied, sit there around the tables in the Taco Bell, and then 3 or 4 managers were there, and they started asking questions to the group just to see who would possibly fit in. And I remember this weird exchange where a few of the girls who were the managers were speaking to some of the girls who had applied, and they started talking about where they get their hair done. And one of the girls who applied asked the manager, "Oh, where do you get your hair done?" And the Taco Bell manager, she said, "Oh, it's over at this place, such and such. All of us Taco Bell girls get our hair done there." And then the person who applied was like, "Well, I'll soon be getting my hair done there too." Because she was like, anyway, kind of like telegraphing that she thought she was the front runner to get hired by Taco Bell. And it just kind of illustrated in a funny way where I was like, well, I'm not getting my hair done there because I'm a guy and that's for girls' hair. So I'm not going to fit in there. But this idea of kind of creating cliques that are unintentionally holding people at the outside or trying to gain favor with someone rather than looking to say, hey, what can we do as a leadership to make sure all of our people are best equipped to excel here, regardless of whether we find that, we have a ton of things in common socially with them or personality wise with them. And so that idea of this being very much an introspection piece where we need to be looking inwardly to see what are we doing to make sure that we're setting everyone up for success. Having self-awareness to where we can answer the question, and maybe sometimes it takes some outsiders' questions to say, hey, am I doing anything that might ostracize people or might hold people at a distance? And so I'd love to open it up with that question. Have you ever experienced that with yourself where you all of a sudden you discovered that unintentionally you had been holding people to the outside? Or have you seen others who are doing this, who are in leadership positions where you think, man, I would like to see them do better at making sure everyone's equipped, at making sure everyone is included in the overall mission that we have here? So I want to open that thought up to everyone.
Go ahead, Joel.
No, I was going to let you go, Frank. You laid up first. Go ahead. Have at it.
No, go ahead, and I'll go after you.
Nathan, I think it's a great point. Fortunately, because I had an opportunity to observe it younger, in my career, you look and it just didn't look right. I've seen similar styles that people even set up that group interview, and you're like, oh, this is disastrous. I don't think it's a good process, to be honest with you, because you're like, oh, it's going to have a tendency to make a group of people not feel tied in. And I think when we go back to, what makes people feel like they're, welcome in that sense of community is inclusion. And I think people can stray from that so easily. And to your point, it was a haircut, right? But there's a group of people there that feel that. So fortunately, because I observed it early on, when I had the opportunity to be a manager and I saw other managers doing that, I would go out of my way to be like, Nathan, where did you get that shirt? That's a great shirt. Just to try to pull the others into the room to offset that. So anyway, that was my 2 cents. But unfortunately, I have seen it more times than I wish I had.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing, Joel. I was going to say, this reminds me, maybe a couple of years back, I was working with a leader who was trying to kind of develop their bench strength. And so I was asking a series of questions about their process to interviewing, hiring, like what are they what are they doing? And I had the opportunity to go to their facility and spend 3 days there. And I had identified several people who I thought based off of my knowledge will be great, for their team. And once I had the conversation with the manager on, have you looked at these people? The manager didn't realize that she was kind of biasly putting them in this group of, well, they're just different. And I'm like, okay, well, what does different mean? Like, what are you trying to communicate? And what came down to it, she was trying to create a team that was just like her. She was looking for her, and if they weren't like her, they got kind of put on this other list. And I told her, you really want to be careful with that for several reasons. The first is different doesn't mean difficult. Just because somebody thinks differently than you, they have a different perspective than you, that does not automatically mean that they're going to be difficult. And the second thing is, you don't need a lot of yous on your team. You want to be able to get the entire 360-degree perspective. And if everybody thinks the same way, you're going to miss people, So you don't want to get, not that it's, and I'm not saying that don't look for you at all, but I'm just saying you don't need a team full of, people who all have this group think, you thinking we're going to do that, get different perspectives, because that really helps to truly strengthen a team. So I totally agree with you. And I also do not like the group interview process either. I think it's a morbid waste of time.
Then I'm going to be the one out here because I love group interviews, but I think it depends on the position you're hiring for too.
Sure.
But I'll say that it also depends on what you do and what you build that to be. If you build it in a weird way that makes people uncomfortable, because there's some shy people, there's some shy 15, 16-year-olds who will show up who've never said a word in front of a group, because I was that person at one time, and that's who I was, and I changed my ways, but I saw that how I build those things. So I'll slightly disagree with that, but I do acknowledge it, that probably plays a role in some people in that process. Mine were always about fun and games. Were they having fun? Were they playing games? Were they doing things that were different than, let's just talk for 5 minutes to the group and ask you all the same question and you each answer the same question? And no, that's just not the way. But I will say that I've seen this from a leadership, a lead or supervisor level leadership, where they haven't been able to progress beyond being that friend, that confidant that they know for years, and now they're in that level and they're in that position and they can't get past it, and they're treating their teams that way, and then identifying that and then having to work with those supervisors and those leads to say, let's talk about what your approach is, because what you're doing is creating that not belonging feeling, don't belong. But so sorry, I'll be a little bit of a disagreeer there about the group interview. Sorry.
No, we love different perspectives.
Yeah.
I think
you belong here, Tony, because you're bringing different ideas.
I do believe that it really is about the culture that you build in that process. And if you've got people who are not, if you're not guiding them, just like you said earlier, are you giving them the goals, letting them know what their role is, and having them have an understanding of it? If you really truly build your team to do that, no matter what, that's what's going to happen. But I've seen it. I've seen it not for me and not to me, but I've seen it on my teams. So,
yeah, and I think too, like what everybody is kind of saying is that we have to have an agreement over company culture, and the agreement is this is what we will encourage in our people of how to treat one another. And this is what we will not tolerate about how we will treat one another. And then to stick by that. So you don't have this weird situation where only the people who have things in common or who think the same way or who look the same or anything like that, only those people really fit in. We have to have a disagreement of opinions, because otherwise we never get to the bottom of fixing anything or improving anything. We never get anyone saying, hey, you know what? The way we're working here, I think this and this and this works, but I see some areas of improvement over here. Can we work on those? Otherwise, you just get that phrase, oh, you're surrounded by yes men or yes people. And then no progress is making, nothing gets fixed. And you end up with, no offense to people who love vanilla ice cream, but you end up with a very vanilla experience. No risks are taken. Yeah, I know Matt loves vanilla ice cream. That's totally fine. But in business, you do have to take some risks. You have to test some things out. You have to have people who are willing to speak up and say, I think we should try this. And the only way you get there is if you build a healthy culture of saying, this is how we engage with one another, and this is what we will not tolerate about engaging with one another. And then upholding that so that there's healthy disagreement, there's healthy connection. And then you have people who do think differently, who do think creatively, who are outside the box, who don't necessarily, love the same movies as you or dress the exact same as you or things like that, then voicing their opinion and bringing new ideas to the surface and challenging the status quo, and also coming together. Like, that is the beauty of discovering and getting people to share more and share their differences, share their different ideas, is then you have an opportunity for connection over these new ideas, these new concepts, this new way of thinking, this new way to look at things. And so it takes a boatload of introspection to make sure that we're self-aware enough to make sure that we are actually upholding those principles of a real healthy culture, which is, what do we encourage on how to treat one another, and what will we not tolerate about how to treat one another, rather than just who has things in common with me, who do I get along with the best. So a little bit of introspection there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And I absolutely agree with you. I think, that being self-aware part that's the cheat code. That's the superpower. You have to know internally what your personal expectations are. And then what is the expectation of the culture that we are allowing? Because I tell people all the time, if you don't say anything, you're giving silent approval. So if somebody's doing something against what the culture and the environment that you're trying to create is, you are essentially, giving them that tacit approval, saying that that's okay. So if you are aware with how you want to run things, how you're going to move, how things happen here, you will absolutely make sure that that's at the forefront of your mind as you're moving in leadership. So that was great, Nathan. Thank you so much for that introspection as part of the Great Belonging. Now we're going to move into our innovation part, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the episode, because we get to learn something new, we get a takeaway. Sometimes there's an activity. So we're going to turn it over to Matt for our innovation part of the Great Belonging. Take it away, Matt.
Thank you so much, Frank. And this is going to actually sound like we planned this, because there's going to be some introspection and some self-awareness piece to this one. First of all, I wanted to go back and just look at the word innovation, because I think it can take on a lot of different meanings. But the definition that really rings true to me is successful implementation of new ideas that create measurable value. So we're doing something that is going to be valuable to us, either personally or professionally. And so when I think about belonging, and I think about this from a leadership perspective, and I think about how can we do something that presents measurable results, the one concept that comes to mind for me is listening. Listening from a leadership perspective can create a feeling of belonging that can't be matched with any other action that you can do as a human being. And I actually want to call out Joel on this, because Joel and I are working on another project where we're meeting monthly. And Joel, I am consistently impressed by the things that you recall from our calls. I don't know if you're writing them down right afterwards, but Joel is a great listener, and he brings things to the table that I may have even forgotten that I said. So I think that's such an important part of being a leader and being, creating an environment where people want to be a part of that with whatever you're doing, that it shows that you care. And there's lots of studies around that, and there's lots of great research about the impact of what it means to actually listen to someone. So Joel, thank you for that. I want to give you a little shout out there. So I'm glad you're here for that.
Appreciate it. And Matt, honestly, it's pretty simple because honestly, you're super interesting. So I'm like, you've made it easy for me, but thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And speaking of listening, there's a lot of things that can get in the way of us listening. And this is, to me, is where the innovation part comes in, thinking about what it takes to actually listen. It's not about our ears. It's much more about having an open mind, because the ear will capture the sound molecules that are being disturbed in the air. They'll push them into your brain. But if you don't have an open mind, as we've kind of talked a little bit about already, it's going to be really hard for you to actually listen to someone. Like even right now, if I'm talking about listening and you're saying, this doesn't make any sense, I'm not buying into this, like that's more of your mind saying you're not listening. So I wanted to share a little bit of a stat, and some of you may have heard this before, but it's kind of the difference between what we hear and how our brain comprehends it. So typically speaking, pun intended, in America, people have studied how we speak and the patterns with which we speak. And they've found that on average, speaking English in America, we speak at about 120 words per minute. Now, when I'm on stage and I speak really rapidly, I can get up to 200 words, I'm sure, right? I get excited, I gusts up to, really high. But then when I'm also trying to make a really important point, I slow down my speech. So the 120 is an average. But what I think is really interesting is the correlation to how many words per minute our brain can comprehend. So raise your hand or give me a thumbs up. Do you think the brain can comprehend more than 120 words per minute? Give me if you think it's more, raise your hand. Okay, Zach saying more. Does anybody say less? Okay, Joel says less. Okay, the actual retail price without going over is between 600 and 800 words is what our brain can comprehend. Okay, so what that means is if we are getting only 120 words, we are probably filtering out a lot of other things because our brain is looking for additional information, or it's actually putting more things into your mind because it's not getting enough stimulus. For example, right now, again, I could be talking and each one of you could be thinking about, hey, I need eggs. I need to go to the store and get some milk. Like all these other things can be happening in your mind. And that, as much as the device can be a big distraction, our mind can be a big distraction when it comes to listening. So if we want to create an environment where people are feeling like they belong and they are part of what we're doing, then we have to really focus how we listen. And again, that starts with our mind. So it's not that you can't do it. It just takes energy. It takes focus. It takes intentionality. I know I've been in many conference programs and even on webinars, and my brain starts to wander a little bit. Maybe the content is going in a direction where I'm like, okay, I've heard this kind of stuff before. Then I start thinking of something else and it's harder to come back. But that's naturally what your brain does because it's looking for so much input. So where I think that comes into play for ourselves and our self-awareness, as Nathan was talking about and Frank was, is that a lot of times those messages that are in our own mind, it can be a distraction, but it could also be things that we really should be listening to. So here's where I want to do a little bit of an exercise. As Frank said, a lot of times during our innovation, there's an exercise. And I want you to think about something that your mind has been telling you or that has been coming into your consciousness that maybe you haven't been listening to. And I'll give you a quick example. For me, I have been wanting to do an in-person retreat for my clients for many, many years. And it's been something that's just sort of been washing into my mind. I'm thinking about it. How am I going to make it happen? That kind of thing. And it wasn't until this year that I made the decision that I'm actually going to do it. And so I've got the place, I've got the dates. I'm going to be putting out the official word here soon. But now that I started listening to myself and listening to what is that thing that I really want to do? Where is it that I want to be that might be outside of my current comfort zone? That's when I started to really think about how I could innovate. So I want to give you like 60 seconds. And I want you to think about something that has been kind of going through your mind. Maybe it's about, hey, am I in the right place professionally? Am I in the right place personally? Is there somebody that I know I need to talk to that, I just haven't talked to them recently, or whatever the case may be, something that's in your mind that maybe you should be listening to that maybe you haven't. So I'll give you 60 seconds to think about that. I also want to bring up the concept really quickly of being in a groove or being in a rut. And here's why I bring this up now. Because when you are kind of going along and not really listening to what your inner voice is saying, because you might be distracted or you might not ready to listen to that or whatever, you could be putting yourself in a bit of a rut where you're staying inside your comfort zone and you're not achieving what you could achieve. Versus if you feel like you're in a groove and you are doing good things and you're feeling good about it and you're taking the calculated risks that you need to take and you're getting outside your comfort zone and you're feeling alive, like that can be a very different feeling and a very different path that you're on. And to me, again, I think it starts with how we listen to ourselves and thinking about how we take in those messages. Also, I want to kind of take this in the direction of listening to others. So the first part was listening to ourselves. So thinking about what that thing is that you wrote down, and should we be listening to that to ourselves? Because listening to others is where the leadership behavior really comes in. And there's so many best practices to listen to others. We talk about eye contact and body language and things like that. I remember walking into a park president's office one time, and we were getting ready to talk about the work that I was going to be doing there. And he had a laptop open on his desk and he closed his laptop. I thought, this is a guy that's ready to listen because he's getting rid of those distractions. So I also think about listening when it comes to leading our teams. And I have a client recently who said, I'm trying to figure out how to kind of get my team to take the next step, to go a little further than they think they can go. And he said, I really feel like I need to lean into challenging them. And I said, I'm going to challenge that thought. I said, you might need to lean into listening to them in a deeper way, listening to what they're looking for, listening to, how they're reacting to things, because that gives you clues to how you can then help them or how you can push them or how far you can push them or how deep you can push them. And he came back on our next call and he said, man, that really worked. So gold star for him for putting that into practice. But now we have our introspection thing. Nathan talked a lot about that. I gave you the opportunity to do that as part of our innovation piece. Now I want to give us the opportunity to practice listening to other people. Okay, now it's a little different on Zoom. We recognize that than in person, but I still think there's things that we can do that help other people recognize that we are listening to them. Again, eye contact. Zach, I don't know what you're looking at your screen, but you're looking right at me and I see your eyes, and so I appreciate that. It looks like you're at least looking at me, and that's wonderful. So again, on a computer, it's a little different. In person, you can kind of get that feeling that people are listening to you. But I would love to give you the opportunity to share what that thing is that you are, in your mind that you would like to listen to, and give us the opportunity to practice listening really closely to what you have to say. So is there anybody that would like to first share your thing that you wrote down about listening to yourself so that we can all practice listening to you? Tony, you're unmuted. Do you want to go?
Well, sorry, my dog is about to start whining. I'm actually retroactively talking about this. This already occurred.
Okay.
For me. It occurred 2 weeks ago without understanding what it was. Now that you put it into perspective for me, Matt, I understood it. And mine was more personal. I have no great connection with a sister of mine who's 16 years younger. And I flew to see family, and I did it because I knew, and I kept telling myself, I need to go and I need to see her. I need to go and I need to make that connection. I need to go and understand her and who she is and the things that she's now doing in life. And so it was just a retrospective there. I don't have a story to say. I need to have you guys help me listen to something. It was something that popped up, and I kept saying myself, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't saying I need to go do this. And then I did it, and it was a miracle. And the perspective of it, everything she told me blew me away. I thought her life was so different because we were so far apart, and just totally blew me away. Now I'm like, we need to connect more. We need to hang out. We need to go, when can I come back to Wisconsin? When, like I'm proactively looking at it, but it was just something that I knew I was telling myself, but I wasn't listening to myself to do it. So don't know. That's probably not a very good leadership example, but it's a personal example that pops in. So
On the contrary, I think that's an excellent leadership example because I think one of the areas that we struggle in leadership is being vulnerable about our challenges, both personal and professional. And I think to share that in a group of people that you don't know, I think that was very brave, and I think that showed excellent leadership. And I am very happy that you had that moment because a lot of times when we're hearing these things but not listening to them, it's something deeper calling us to that. Like, why does this keep coming up over and over and over? Even if it's a faint voice or if it's a faint thought or fleeting thought, it's coming up for a reason. So the fact that you listened and responded to that, I think, was amazing.
yeah, I said, oh, I got to go to Michigan and Wisconsin. I'm doing this. I'm going to see them. So or see her. So, yeah.
Well, I love that too. And Tony, like Frank said, I totally agree with Frank that this is a great leadership lesson, also from the perspective of reflecting. That's another thing that I think we don't do enough of from a leadership perspective, which is another way to listen to ourselves, is reflect on what we've done and how it has impacted us, because everything that you experience in life can now be a lesson for others. So this is a great lesson for other people who either have a family member that they're estranged from or a team member. Like if you recognize that there's a team member that you just don't get along with, or you're like, I don't understand what they do, like great inspiration is what Frank's going to share with us later, to say, hey, it worked for Tony. Here's how he did it. He made that decision. Well, I can do that with the guy running the go-karts that I don't know very well. So thank you for sharing that, Tony. Love it. Love it. Who else would like to share?
I'll go. I think funny enough for me, the voice has been telling me to do more things like this. So this is in October, I've been here in this role for 4 years. So it's a little bit more comfortable than it was when I moved across country and just started, right? So now that I feel more comfortable in this role, I can start to do more outside things. So it includes things like this and meeting all of you. I've done a bunch of like guest speaker spots at Ohio State. I know a bunch of like my professors from back in the day, and so they'll have me come back and talk. And I just recruited our new management intern, just started, and recruited her that way. So I think it's just been telling me to kind of get out there and stretch externally. And not that I want to leave this job anytime soon or move on, but I don't think the parks part of my career is over. Before I retire, I would like to do some more theme park things, right? So just keeping an open mind and meeting new people, like I said, like this is what I've been hearing recently.
That's awesome. One thing I'll take away from that, Zach, and from what Tony said, is that these thoughts have led to an action, right? And when you start listening to those things that you really have desires about, and like you said, maybe your theme park career isn't over, maybe in the future, as you see an opportunity potentially that pops up, you're like, oh, that could be the next step in my career. You're already thinking that may be something that you want to explore. So I think it's great that we're seeing in both of these examples that these thoughts that we have, once we start listening to them, they can take us in a direction that will keep us in the groove so we don't stay in a rut. Love it, love it. Joel, how about you?
I love the fact that the three of you put together this program because it makes me feel more human. So the voice in my head, it's been going at me forever, and it's getting louder on a couple different points, both personal and professional, and both of them go around building. One, with the network of people that I've met within the industry, it's remarkable as you start gluing the pieces together. And I've had the idea for another business opportunity that I see myself doing, 8 to 10 years down the road. And as I continue to meet people, and I guess my point is this, when you start listening to this a little bit more, like for example, I'm also a foodie. So I've started making a menu. And then based on the menu, I've started doing this. And then I do things around hospitality. And I'm like, oh, imagine if you glued this to that. And then you meet somebody. And I guess my point is this. The more you listen to that voice, or the more you take some action against that voice, the more you start seeing that your external network of people, resources, or whatever it might be, you almost find a way to glue things together to make it more actionable. So it's funny, like I said, in the last year or so, it's become much louder. But unfortunately, I've been running my family through a new menu of stuff I'm doing, and it's not necessarily a restaurant. It's something much different, but I'm taking it piece by piece now because I swear as you take action against these things, that voice in your head that speaks to you, not only do you get an education, but I think you become more satisfied in what you're doing going forward, and allows you the opportunity to have that more dialogue in what you're doing, if any of that makes sense. So I guess it's just kind of like taking action against what the voice is doing and becoming educated in that space, whatever it might be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting, Joel, as you bring in your family to that, and you could make the same corollary with your team at work, is that they're all part of it. Like none of us operate in a vacuum. So the things that we do and the things that we think in our mind, yeah, they're going to have an impact on us, but they're also going to have an impact on the people around us. And here we are in Impact Nation talking about that. So it's a great tie-in to the things that we may not yet know that we're capable of, but if we're following that little string of interest, like the food or attractions or whatever it might be in our lives, it's amazing what we can kind of unravel, right? And learn not only about ourselves, but about the people around us.
And one of the coolest things, Joel, just to add to that, and this is my personal belief, a lot of the times that small voice that we hear and those things that are kind of nudging us to do something, to think something, or to do something, while it brings us fulfillment, a lot of times it's not really for us. It's for us to create something that impacts the nation, that impacts the world, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's being at an amusement park, whether it's, reconnecting with a family member. That is something that impacts everything around us. So do we get personal fulfillment from it? Absolutely, because it's something that came to us. But I always think about, there is something inside of me that the world is waiting on. And I challenge myself all the time. What is it? What is it today? What do I need to say today? What store do I need to go to? What restaurant do I need to go to? Like, who's waiting on me? And I don't say that in an arrogant way, like I'm this savior or something like that. But I just believe that we all have things that people need and want and desire. And if I am not listening to the unction to move, somebody's waiting on me. And I don't want anybody waiting on me. I want to empty. I want to be empty so I can get refilled, and then empty back out and refilled, and then empty back out. And that's just kind of how I move through life.
Well, I love that. And I think it's a great way to kind of encapsulate a lot of the things we've been talking about in terms of like the thing that you may be thinking of is your gift to the world.
Yeah.
Whether that's great management or inspiring people or food or whatever it might be, like everybody has different gifts, right? And everybody is here to provide something of service to other people. And maybe that's just a belief that I have. But also, Frank, when you talk about the things that you're doing that are impacting you, a lot of the fulfillment that probably all of us get is when we do something that is fulfilling to other people as well. Right.
Yeah.
And we know that we were part of that and they were able to learn and grow and be a better human being because of something that we helped them do. So I think that's a great way to kind of bring back together, what we're talking about in terms of innovation, doing something hopefully successful that will have a measurable value. And I think listening to ourselves, listening to others is a great start with that. So my challenge to everybody here is just to continue to listen to that voice, continue to listen to others, be open-minded to the things that can come your way and that will allow you to present your gifts to the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Matt. And that exercise that Matt just had us go through, I want to encourage you all, if you are a leader of people, and even in your own personal life, take inventory of that on a regular basis and see what is the thing. We can get so busy with going through the everyday rigmarole of life that we never stop and take that moment to say, what is the thing? What should I be doing? What is the thing for today? So I just love that we took that moment, and I want you guys to take that and use it because it can be helpful. Am I in a groove or am I in a rut? That's like, it's so simple, but it's so impactful to how we move through life, especially in leadership. So thanks again, Matt, for that innovation. And so now we're going to get to inspiration. What we do for our inspiration part of the episode is we come up with a quote or a thought or something, and we share it. Immediately when we started talking about this title, probably within 30 seconds, once it was decided that I was going to do the inspiration part, I knew exactly the quote that I was going to use today. And I didn't share it with Matt and Nathan because we never do. We just give it live and then we get their thoughts. And I truly cannot think of a better quote for this episode, especially with what everything that everybody has shared. So here's the quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So, what are your thoughts? Nathan, take it away.
Oh man, I love this quote. It is such a powerful one. I think it's credited to Maya Angelou. And I use it all the time in my talks when I'm speaking for organizations and keynoting and all that, because that really is the culture that you create. Like the culture is all about how you feel. And what we were talking about at the beginning of this, when we were looking at introspection and asking that, like, what do we encourage or what do we establish as the right way to treat one another, right? Because that's all about how you make them feel. Do they feel heard? Do they feel included in the conversation? Do they feel included in the decision-making process? If they are, guest service in a guest service position, and you change a whole bunch of stuff without talking to them first, are you introducing more problems to them, or are you helping to solve a problem for them? So making sure that people who are involved in the problem on a daily basis are also involved in the discussion of the solution on a daily basis, like they're going to be your well of solving it powerfully. In every industry, every organization is guilty of this. It's that idea of leaders making a decision at the top level and then forcing it down without consulting the people who encounter it daily. I used to be a teacher, And so many times, there would be curriculum decisions or testing decisions or behavior and acceptance decisions made at the top level, pushed down to all the teachers. And guess what? All the teachers asked, have they ever been inside a classroom? And that's the quickest way to detach yourself from building a good culture. That's the quickest way to detach yourself as a leader from your people that you're supposed to be leading, is if they can ask that question, like, have they ever even provided service to a guest? Have they ever even operated a ride? Have they ever flipped a burger in their life? To know what we are encountering on a daily basis and what we're up against, and yet they want us to do this crazy thing that sounds like they came up with it on the planet Mars. Um, and so that idea of making sure that we are ever so careful in how we make people feel. And I really think that that doesn't mean that, and I talk a lot about kindness, and I say kindness isn't about being nice. Being nice is like concerned, like, oh, I don't want to say anything to upset this person. I just want to make sure that we keep the peace. And no, kindness is all about establishing, like, hey, I respect you. And so this is where I disagree. Let's talk through this. Let's have these difficult conversations. But you're going to walk away knowing I truly care about you as an individual. And we have to get to the bottom of this. We have to solve this. And so if you are careful and you cultivate that wise way of treating others so that they feel heard, they feel respected, and not in like name only of like, well, let's do a team member survey so that everybody feels heard, but we aren't going to do anything about it. Like, we're just going to leave it sitting there. That isn't handling it right. And so making sure that you are legitimately concerned and taking action to make people feel a part of the group, that they are contributing members. A lot of it has to do with effective communication to make sure they know the goals of the organization and what their role is there. Because sometimes that can be just as effective of a conversation. Like, I hear you, I understand the change you want. However, we can't make that change because of this, and explaining the goal of the organization and what we're all about. And so then people can walk away being like, oh, like they feel respected because they're included in the overall strategy and understanding. Then they can start to think differently about the ideas they bring to the table to then help propel everything toward that goal. I know I got a bit long-winded there, but man, that quote, it churns up so much inside of me to share. So
For
Matt,
sure.
over to you.
Thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Frank, for sharing that quote. My first thought was about the fact that we as human beings are all driven by emotion. Like, everything that we do is driven by how we feel. So if we're not paying attention to that, then we're really missing the boat, in terms of just being a human being, but also from a leadership perspective. Also, something Nathan just said reminded me of something Tony said. I think it was last year or the year before, Tony. I was in one of your sessions at IAPA, and it may have been just an offhand comment, but you said to the group, you said, you appreciate your team, right? And I took this in two different ways. Like, number one, you appreciate your team by saying thank you and the things that Nathan was talking about. But then I took it a little deeper, and I'm not sure if this is where you were going with it, Tony, but like, to really truly feel like you appreciate, like, do you really appreciate the team? Right. And, knowing Tony, I know he does truly appreciate the people around him. So I think that appreciation and recognition and coaching can seem different when you are doing it to check a box versus if you truly feel appreciation for someone. If you're like, yes, I appreciate that you are here, that you spent the time doing this, and there's an emotional outpouring from you that then is picked up by that other person. And that's where I think, the human connection is something that's never, ever going to go away. So thank you, Nathan, for driving that in that direction and leading me back to Tony's comment, because I think it really explains how I feel about Frank's quote.
Thank you so much, Matt. Tony, Zach, Joel, any thoughts on that quote? Any feelings about it?
I do. It's actually one of my favorites. I've got three favorites, and that's in the top three. Huge part of what I do for work actually stems on hospitality, and obviously that's one of the key things that we always think of, right? It's people remember how you made them feel, and I'll tell you something that's relevant, especially with this group. So let's talk about some of the networking events at IAPA, right? We have a decent sized pond of network that we know. And think of it, you walk into that cocktail reception and you can scan the room, and you might have your key people that you know, and then you look over and you see so and so standing there and you're like, I don't know why I know them, but I know I like them. And you know what I mean? That goes back to the can't tell you what we talked about, can't tell you what we did, but I know I like that person. Now, here's what's funny. I'm going to kind of put a cheat out here. Actually, at IAPA this past year, I had the opportunity to speak with each of you. And I think, Frank, I might have actually scared you, because I think I greeted you with a hug. And I was like, dude, you're getting a hug either way. But it was because of how you made me feel. And I think that, I couldn't tell you a specific conversation. Matt, with you, I can tell you a couple. But it's how people make you feel. Quick side note on that. I've got my little guy independently for the next couple days. My wife is out of country, and I'm trying to think of all these things to amuse a 4-year-old. And then something came back to me and just said, it isn't what you do. It's make him feel the experience. Let him have a good time. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It's set the environment. And that's what I think. So anyway, I've said too much, but again, thank you all for what you do.
No, thank you so much for sharing. And it didn't, I'm a toucher, I'm a hugger, I'm a handshaker, and so I have to check myself sometimes because I'm going in for the hug too. So I do appreciate that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I could not have imagined what Impact Nation was going to turn into. We just knew we wanted to do something because of the way we make each other feel. And it is very evident that it is just trickling down to you guys. So we are so grateful that you're here. We wanted to share that we officially will be teaching at IAPA this year. And we're going to be talking about the Great Belonging, but it's going to be much deeper on that topic. So we're going to be putting out the date, the time. We have the location and all of that stuff. Super sneak peek. We're going to be in the new part that's opening up this year, which I'm super excited about, because even that in and of itself, I think is very profound with what we're doing here at Impact Nation. So there's going to be more information to come. We're going to have other episodes. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is going to get better and better and better. And you could have been doing anything else with this hour. So we truly appreciate you guys for coming on out today. And feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions about what we're doing or what we're doing next. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Nation.